Good morning, everybody. I'm Dick Wagner. We're going to talk today about the 8 responsibilities of a marketer. In my email sent out to everybody, I guess this morning and as well yesterday morning, suggested strongly that the marketers listen in on this um, so you can actually see what some people think are pretty important requirements or responsibilities of marketers. So, we're going to talk about your role as a marketer. Exactly what does the marketer do? What should the marketer be doing on a daily, weekly, monthly basis? I've only listed 8 because I wanted to keep this short and sweet. However, there are probably 20 or 30 different things, and maybe I will create a series of things that a marketer should be doing, and you can watch a series of 10-minute slide or video presentations to see all of the different things that I think are really important. The very first thing that we want you to do is, and I know you're trying to do this every day, but you should be identifying potential prospects. You should be listing them. You should be adding them into a CRM. I've had some occasional owners say, well, I don't want anything in the CRM, the customer relations management program, until they're actually clients or prospects, serious prospects. And that's really not how a CRM is designed. A CRM, customer relations management software, is just that. It's a way to track, develop, build a client base, and the CRM is a great way to put down critical information. So using your CRM is one great way to build and create a list of potential clients and existing customers. Another way to track and identify and find prospects is utilizing Google. Many of you have worked with me on providing or having me provide you a list from Sales Genie. Sales Genie is a national database of millions upon millions of businesses. So we search Sales Genie to find all the plumbers in your specific market, or all the insurance agents, or whomever you're targeting. If you're going after commercial clients such as hotels and nursing homes and so forth, Sales Genie is a great way to generate an awesome list, so you don't have to spend hours searching on Google for that information. Once you have the list in front of you from a source like Sales Genie, social media is another great place. You have the name, you have the company, the contact. You can search Facebook, you can search Twitter, you can search Pinterest, you can search their website. You can learn an incredible amount of information about them and connect with them, interact with them. Networking events. Some of you, and I've talked to a lot of marketers over the years, some of you absolutely hate marketing events. Why? Well, partly I think it's because we don't know how to network. One of the areas that's least taught is the strategy or the process to engage in a networking event. Everywhere you go, you should be interacting with people. I have a marketer who, getting gas at the gas station, will start chatting with the person in the next pump or aisle over, and not afraid to interact, not afraid to chat, not afraid to start a conversation. And amazingly, one of those marketers, this particular marketer I'm thinking of, started chatting with a guy at the gas pump. And it turned out that he was the district manager for 70, I believe they were Arby's restaurants. And I may be wrong on that. It might have been Burger King restaurants. But nonetheless, he was the general, or not the general manager, he was the regional or district manager. And in the conversation, this marketer got invited to meet with him at his office, and he signed up every single one of those restaurants into a pre-disaster program. That's what marketing or talking to everyone everywhere does for you. We're going to have a webinar or at least a short video on the steps that you need to do when you're at a networking event. I know that some of you will go to things like the after hours Chamber of Commerce events. Some of you will go to a BNI event. Out on the East Coast, there are networking events called Blue Goose, and they're specifically events where insurance agents and vendors get together. It's an insurance networking group with insurance vendors. And so Blue Goose is a great one for that. And there are other networking events as well. We'll come back and we'll talk about them. The goal is to identify potential prospects and get them in the CRM. Another area of weakness for many clients is to properly qualify your prospects. Oddly enough, I have talked with especially owners who have this absolute determination that everybody is a legitimate prospect. Every insurance agent, every plumbing company or plumbing technician, every carpet cleaning company, every general contractor is vital and should be marketed to and considered a legitimate prospect. I 100% disagree with that. I'm going to give you some simple numbers. If you have to start 250 insurance agents in your quote unquote route, it's my belief that you will only ever get work from about 10% of them. That number, 10% of 250, is 25. So then the question is, what happens to the other 225? Well, the short answer is nothing. They're never going to do anything for you. If they're never going to do anything for you, why do you continue to visit them? Now, I'm going to take it just a step further. The process of qualifying is somewhat subjective. It's somewhat a gut feeling. But too many times I've had marketers that say, well, I'm pretty sure they're going to one of these days refer us. We just had such a great chat. We talked about their puppy and their kids and soccer practice and on and on and on. And man, they were just chatting us up, and I know they're going to send us something. Well, I was told this by a marketer 3 or 4 years ago, and when I asked her how long she'd been calling on those 200 and some, I think it was 240 marketers, excuse me, those 240 insurance agents, she said, I've been calling on them for 4 years. And when I asked her of those 240, and I believe that was the number, insurance agents that she'd been calling on, how many of those actually had sent her any job in the past 18 months, past year and a half? And she hesitated and she thought, and she finally answered about 20 of them. Wow. After 4 years of visiting 200 and some insurance agents, only 20 of them were sending her any work or referrals or jobs. I think I made my point, and when I told her to eliminate 200 of those agents from her route, she looked at me mortified, saying, well, how am I going to maintain business? How are we going to get any more leads? And I almost laughed out loud rudely, but I said, well, they're not sending you work now, and they haven't for 4 years. What makes you think they're going to start tomorrow? Well, she finally did stop seeing about 200 of those agents. And ironically, the remaining agents that she was working with, her leads and referral numbers went up because she was able to give a more appropriate, devoted time to them. So, what's the process of qualifying? Number one, are they ready, willing, and able to refer you? If they say to you, we don't get involved in claims, we only refer our policyholders to 1-800 Claims Central. We are told by corporate office not to be involved in the claims process, to sell policies. Well, guess what? They're not able to refer you. Well, in theory, they are able, but they've decided they're not going to refer you or anybody. They're going to refer their policyholder that had a loss. They're going to refer them over to the 800 number. That's just silly. I think it's very short-sighted for the insurance agent. But if that's what they're going to do and they tell you that's how they operate, they're not going to refer you. Lose them from your list. Are they willing to refer you, but they're hesitant? Well, in that case, it's up to you to change their mindset about whether or not they trust you. If they trust you, then they're very likely going to send you a job. Will they refer you? Yeah, maybe. You have to make that subjective gut decision. Have you identified those agents or plumbers or carpet cleaners or property management companies? Have you identified them as an A client or a B client or a C client? A stands for awesome. And I know that some of my clients actually have broken it down into A plus, and A minus, but I think that's a little cumbersome and unnecessary. Either they are an A client, which is awesome, or a B client, which is debatable, and a C client, in my opinion, stands for crap. Lose the C clients or lose the C leads. They're not even clients. Spend your time cultivating real, actual, legitimate, willing to refer you prospects. Another responsibility of a marketer is to develop a story or several stories that resonate with your clientele. It can be a personal story. And yeah, the debate is, do I want to share some really intense personal thing about myself that really may not be public knowledge or shouldn't be? Again, that's your call, but many times sharing a personal story creates this trust factor with a potential client. And the more they trust you, the more they want to do business with you. Learn how to create and say an analogy or a metaphor. One of my favorites, when someone says, well, how are you different than XYZ company? I love this answer. We are to restoration what Nike is to sports. We all know, everybody knows, that Nike is sports. Whether we like Nike's politics or not, Nike is involved in every single kind of sport out there. And so, an analogy or a metaphor, if you will, that says, to answer the question, how are you different? Well, we're different because we are to disaster restoration what Nike is to sports. That's a powerful metaphor. And that clarifies exactly who you are and what you do. Another important part about being credible to your clients, always make your stories about the client. The client must always be the hero. I have had marketers tell me, well, aren't we the hero? Because, we're the first responder. Aren't we the hero? Because we ride in on the white horse and we clean up their disaster. We should be the hero. No, you should not be the hero. The client should always be the hero. How do you explain that? Very simply, the client is the hero because the client made the logical, intelligent decision to use you. And so they become the hero by making the wise decision. It's okay to have stories that showcase your services, but you should not be the hero. You can give real life examples of what happened in a disaster event and what you actually did, but you'll always need to put the credible or the credibility on the client that hired you. Yeah, they really were smart. They did the wise thing. They called us really quick and were able to get that sewage cleaned up really fast. Another great way to be credible is to tell stories about how you are different. How we're different? Well, once in a while we get called to a home where another contractor had already been there. He'd been there 8 days. And you know what? He didn't properly dry the home. And the customer was very concerned about the fact that the walls and the floors or whatever were still wet. That's a story about how you're different than your competitor. Interesting stories about your company. And there are interesting stories. Great, interesting story. I was doing an inspection at a commercial building, and they had been flooded, and I was down in the basement of this big commercial factory, and there were wet cardboard boxes everywhere. And I stepped down onto one of those boxes, not realizing that there was a 6-foot hole directly underneath, filled with about 3 foot of water. I was very fortunate to catch myself as I went down, and I hung on the edge, soaking wet on the bottom half, cut my thumb wide open, and recovered. That was out in Albany or Schenectady, New York. So that's an interesting story. I think it was a personal story. It's something that happened to me. And people hang on the edge of their seat for things like that. Any way you can tell unusual stories, people like it. And so I want you to be a memorable storyteller. People can remember stories. People can remember actually details about those stories because our mind is wired to remember stories. It's not wired very well to remember bullet points. I've got bullet points coming up, and I know you won't remember most of them. The other thing that I want you to work on as a marketer is learn how to create attention. I don't mean drive around like Truly Nolan in a Volkswagen Bug with a big plastic tail on the rear bumper and goofy mouse ears on the front or on the roof. I don't mean that level of creating attention, but certainly there are ways to create attention. I like to use the following examples as great ways to create attention. Reference the LinkedIn profile. Have on your LinkedIn profile some really, really good information. I was just working, I believe yesterday morning. I was working with one of my clients on refining and perfecting and fixing their LinkedIn profile. It was a little confusing. It was a little chopped up. There wasn't consistency with it. So if you want to draw attention to yourself, use your LinkedIn profile, but make sure that it's consistent and logical and that you get recommendations from people. Talk about the client's Facebook page. Talk about the client's own LinkedIn profile. Before you go in to see an insurance agent, go to their LinkedIn profile. See if they're on LinkedIn. Mention your profile. Mention their profile. It will help with creating or drawing attention to you, and it helps them feel like they're being acknowledged and recognized. You ought to look at their Facebook page. You ought to see if they have a Twitter account and what kind of stuff they're tweeting out. It's great. It's a great way to have a conversation with them about things that matter to them. I know many of my clients are doing this, but you should be asking agents and plumbers, CSR people at the front desk to interview with you. You should have an interview form and a clipboard and just go right down the list and ask 6 or 8 or 10 key questions. Once you do that and they answer those and you write those answers down, they look at you differently. They view you differently. They think of you in a different way. There is a totally different relationship created when you interview somebody, because often both you and they will share a lot of personal and business related information, and it changes the perception of who you are, and you change the perception of who they are. Have a memorable brand, a personal brand. I've said this before to some of you, and some of you you laughed, but I worked for a couple years with a marketer who wore a cowboy hat and cowboy boots. And yes, it was a lady, and she wore what I guess they're called sundresses. And she's here in Florida, and she wore cowboy boots, cowboy hat, and a sundress, and that was her personal brand. They called her the cowgirl, and she went with that, and she expanded upon that, and she announced that the cowgirl is here. Tell Bob the cowgirl is here, and it stuck, and it's a great way to grab attention that's memorable. Also, be willing to ask for referrals. And I take it a step further. I've even done a video on the difference between a referral and an introduction. My favorite is introductions, because when you say to somebody, hey, if you could you give me a referral to another insurance agent that might be interested? Well, that's easy. Sure, call so and so and just tell them Bob sent you. That's kind of generic. That's okay, but that doesn't really have the same impact as, oh, would you do me a favor and call that agent right now? See if you can reach them on the phone, and if you can, at least leave them a voice message telling them that you wanted to introduce me to them, and that Rachel or Candy or Carrie or Tom or Bob or Ryan or John will be calling them or stopping by and visiting them. That's a far better process than a generic referral. A true introduction from someone is extremely valuable. Also, don't be afraid to ask for suggestions of how you can help them in their business. Is there anything I can do for you to make life better, business better? You know, some of them are going to, tongue in cheek say, yeah, I'd like $1,000,000. When our grandson says, I want cookies, my wife will say, I want $1,000,000. So now at 5 years old, when she says, I want $1,000,000, sometimes he'll respond, I want $1,000,000 too. And he doesn't even know the difference between 100 and 1,000. One other thing that I hope you do consistently, I know some of you do, I do it personally for my business, is I send people personal, handwritten thank you notes. Very, very few people do it in this world today. We might bang out a generic thank you on email. We might tweet a TY in a text, we might send a text with a TY for thank you, a very short abbreviation. That's not very personal. You want to make an impact, send a personal handwritten thank you. That creates attention. I highly encourage you to build upon, encourage word of mouth. Get people talking about you, and hopefully talking about the good things about you. Learn how I've had people say, well, how can I deliver great or amazing customer service? Well, I'm just a marketer. Well, if they ask you to do something for them, can you find out about XYZ, or can you find out about this, or could you check and let me know about this? One of the best ways to do great customer service is follow up, follow up, follow up. You also need to have a proactive touch process. I just wrote an article, actually, believe it or not, this morning. It will be going on the website this afternoon when we're done with this webinar. And I wrote the article, it's only about 4 or 5 minute read. I wrote the article on touch, how you can take advantage of the touch process. Every one of your clients, every one of your prospects needs to have a touch. And I mean more than one. There's an actual program out there called 33 touches. They're trying to sell you something, obviously, but whether it's 33 touches or 10 touches, people have to have a touch or a reminder that you exist. And in the article that I wrote this morning, it talks about many different ways that you can employ a touch process so that you are interacting with and engaging with your prospects and your clients. You want to do something that gives your clients something to talk about. It can be promoting the American Cancer Society. It can be about volunteering at the soup kitchen. There's just so many different ways that you can elaborate upon or build upon word of mouth. Because the fact is, when your clients rave about you or your company, insurance agents take notice, plumbers take notice, and other clients that you work with take notice. Yes, I want to clarify this. I want to really elaborate on it. I hope that you'll go back and re-watch this video. If you don't, at least take screenshots of a couple of the big important ones. This is one that I think is pretty important. Marketers can deliver great customer service. How? By taking them a Maven article. That's considered great customer service. Why? Because you're making it about the client. The better you are at making it about the client, the more impactful you and your company will be. Be sure to follow up on questions that they ask about, ask you to check on, or maybe they're just asking a largely rhetorical question, but they did ask you, And if they do ask you, go find out the answer and then use that as a touch, use that as a valid reason to either call them back or send them a personal email specifically giving them the answer to that question they asked. Do things for the customer. And by the customer, I'm talking about that homeowner or policyholder that had the disaster. Do things for them that are wildly awesome, but make sure you give either the insurance agent or if it was a plumber referral, make the plumber the hero. You don't need to take credit for it. Send the customer a bouquet of edible fruit and make it compliments of the insurance agent. Send the customer a basket of cookies. Make it compliments of the plumber. I can tell you the agent and the plumber are going to send you a lot more work when you do that. It isn't about you being the hero. It's about your client, the agent or the plumber, being the hero. Go to LinkedIn, find their profile, and find a way to say something nice about them in a recommendation or endorse them. There are both endorsements and recommendations on LinkedIn. Find a way to either endorse them or if they really rocked it or socked it out of the park, find a way to give them a great glowing recommendation. Find a way to give them a 5-star rating on Facebook. Believe me, they will notice. We have hundreds of followers on my Ask Wagner Facebook page and also hundreds of followers on the Crest page. When someone gives us a great rating, or even when someone follows us, we notice, we check it out, we see who that person was that followed us or gave us a rating, and we thank them personally by email. And wherever you can, and this is tough, but if you can refer a customer to an insurance agent or a customer to a plumber, man, now you're really awesome. And when you do all of these things, yeah, this is tough for some of us. Don't expect something in return. Do these out of the goodness of your heart. Do these because you care about your clients, because you care about your prospects, because you care about your customers. Expect nothing in return. I'm going to elaborate just a little bit more on this. I touched on it a few minutes ago, but I think it's a really, really big deal. We don't talk about this enough in the sales and marketing strategies, but when you ask for a referral, take it deeper than a referral. Ask for an introduction. A referral from one of your clients or prospects is very nice, but an introduction is 10 times or 100 times better and more valuable. It's okay to even ask for an introduction on their on Facebook Messenger or in a LinkedIn messaging process. It's okay to do that. It's considered appropriate and acceptable in a business world. You need to have a specific reason why you're asking for an introduction. You should do it in a low-key manner. You should demonstrate how grateful you are when they do it. And when they actually do introduce you to someone, for heaven's sakes, take 60 seconds, take 2 minutes, and handwrite a personal thank you card and mail it to them. They'll be willing to do it again and again. And then once they introduce you, follow up with both of those people. The person that introduced you and the person that you have now been introduced to. Both of those people need to have a follow up. One is, hey, thank you so much for introducing me to Bob. And Bob, I look forward to talking with you. I'll follow up with you on Tuesday. That's a powerful process of introduction. We're all guilty of this. We all struggle with this. Yes, we all have wives or mates that are accusing the men, at least, of selective hearing. Sadly, we have selective hearing with our clients, with our customers. Selective hearing is dangerous. It might be dangerous with your wife, but believe me, it's really dangerous with a customer because now it can cost you big dollars. Because you have to have active listening in order to build a legitimate marketing rapport. You have to learn how to give your undivided attention. When your wife is speaking to you, guys, you're usually watching TV, you're on your phone, you're typing at the computer, you're sending a text, you're sending an email, you're distracted. And so, yeah, even though we're all guilty of this, we need to develop a process, a trigger, a way to get us to give undivided attention to the other person. It's powerful, it's valuable. We also can do that by using body language. A customer is talking to you or a client is talking to you, and you turn your body halfway toward the door as if you're trying to clear the way and make a run for it. That is a body language example of not showing undivided attention. You can solve that by facing them, giving occasional eye or periodic eye contact. You can solve that by asking lots of questions that are related to the topic you're talking about. And then when they give you an answer, repeat back a synopsis or a brief a repeat of what you believe you heard. Shockingly, occasionally you're going to hear them say, no, 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 that's not what I meant. What I meant was, and now it's a really good thing that you repeated it back because you misunderstood it. You misheard it. Also, use a process called mirroring. Mirroring gives your client comfort. When they stand with their hands on their hips, you stand with your hands on your hips. When they cross their leg, you cross your leg. When they nod their head up and down, you nod your head up and down. Mirroring gives people comfort that you're providing them with undivided attention. And don't hesitate to ask for clarification. When they give you a comment, say, what do you mean by that? Or could you explain further? That's building marketing rapport, and that is powerful. That's valuable. Developing a personal brand. I already talked briefly again about this process. Developing a personal brand covers a lot of different things, much more than just, cowboy hat and cowboy boots, like I mentioned earlier. Building a personal brand covers a whole bunch of different things. First thing you need to do, and you know what? I'm willing to put big money on it, that 75% of you watching this will not do this. But for those that do, identifying in writing on a notepad or on your computer, identifying who you think you are. I think I am a happy person. I think I am a smart person. I think I am a timid person. I think I am a caring person. I think I'm a great active listener. Whatever traits you can think of about yourself that you believe are true about yourself, you need to put them in writing. And the reason is because the areas that you are weak in are areas that you can identify and work on to improve. Areas that you're really, really good at, maybe you need to temper those a little bit. Maybe you need to back off a little bit. Maybe one of the things that you put down is, I'm really aggressive about going after customers. Maybe you're too aggressive. And yes, as a coach, I did say that. You can be too aggressive. You can be an in your face, obnoxious, overbearing kind of person. I can't tell you over the years how many marketers have said to me, you know what, I was chatting with an insurance agent or a plumber, and I was telling them about why we exist and how we are motivated to take care of the agent's policyholder, and it's all about the agent and making the agent be the hero. And the agent has actually said, oh my gosh, why doesn't your competition do that? They come in here thinking they're cocky and arrogant and big shots and self-important, and I just can't stand them. And so, yes, you can be too aggressive. Write down what you want to be known for. I want to be known for the person that follows up the best. I want to be known for the person that does the most for the customer. Know who your audience is. What you say to your insurance agent is different than what you would say to a hotel manager when you're calling on them. What you say to a plumber is different than what you would say to a insurance agent. And get this, what you say to the plumber owner is different than what you say to the plumber technician. Know who your audience is. Have a compelling elevator speech. We've been working with some clients recently on creating a compelling elevator speech. Oddly enough, other than remembering what your name is and what company you work for, there really only need to be 2 other sentences to an elevator speech. And if you want to talk about an elevator speech with me and you haven't yet, give me a call or mention that on our next conference call, and we'll talk about it. It'll be an eye opener for you. Also, expand your online presence. Be active, be involved, be engaged on LinkedIn. The same on Facebook. You can have your own Twitter account. Yeah, you might be handling a company Twitter account, but you can have your own. And you can send out tweets every day that elevate who you are and make people realize that you, the marketer, have something good and valuable to say. And your persona can even have a visual aspect. You heard the example recently or earlier in this webinar about the cowboy hat and the cowboy boots with a sundress. Another great visual. I have a client that says every single time she leaves an agent or a plumber or a property manager, she says, shine bright like a diamond. And yeah, I know that's a song title, but she carries with her in her purse or her bag, she carries a handful of little plastic diamonds, about the size of a marble. And you can buy a package of 100 of them at Michael's or Joann Fabrics or one of those places. You can buy them for a few dollars. And when she says shine bright like a diamond, she leaves a little plastic faceted diamond on their desk. And now, after several years, she goes back month after month, always leaving a diamond. She's referred to as the Diamond Lady. And many of those people, those prospects and clients, have gotten a brandy snifter or a wine glass, and they collect them and they keep them on their desk. And after 2 or 3 years, they have dozens of them, and they just can't bring themselves to throw them away, so they collect them. That's a great way to enhance your persona. So let's wind this down. Recapping quickly some of the things we talked about, some of the things that I think are extremely valuable. Number one is qualify your prospects. Identify the ones that do and will send you work and the ones that are almost guaranteed to never send you work. Eliminate those and give special attention to the ones that are truly qualified. Now you have good quality prospects. Know how to qualify them, know what criteria determines whether they're going to refer you or not. Learn how to be a great storyteller. Ask for an introduction wherever possible. It is the most powerful way to connect with someone else. Learn how to build a great marketing rapport, and that includes active listening, facing them, mirroring your prospect. And then get really good at developing a personal brand. Somebody said recently to me, well, I'm going to start giving out candy kisses. Okay, what would be the other part of that persona? Well, I'm just going to kiss everybody. No, please. Probably not a good idea. So candy kisses probably isn't a good idea unless you can find a way to incorporate the concept of a kiss without actually smacking somebody on the lips with your lips. Yep, that's a crazy way to end this webinar. I'm Dick Wagner. Thanks for watching the Crest Network. This is the regular Tuesday morning webinar. Thanks. Have a great day. Bye-bye.